Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this fantastic Friday. That's it, it's Friday. It's fantastic. You're fantastic. You're looking amazing. And I'm getting straight into the meat and potatoes as we do have a little bit to get through. We're going to be having a look at a specific court doc, intravenous status of the media being denied, why that is important, the fact that Tyler Robinson footage has been lost, and is the shooter actually Tyler Robinson in the first place? Is Tyler Robinson just the Kansas City Shuffle? Look over here while we do something over here. Because let's get straight into it and say that this here, which I think you've got to pay attention to this. Like this Tyler Robinson, obviously taken on Potato Cam, because you don't get a photo unless Potato Cam's involved in the first place. This, apparently, Tyler Robinson on the day of the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Now, we've looked at these photographs, we've gone between them, but I'm going to put this right here. These two individuals, in my opinion, are not the same person. Now, if you look at this guy here, just look at his shoulders. He's got broad, rounded shoulders here. And don't forget as well, he's got a bag on his back. He's got a backpack. And he's wide. He's wide at the top. You've got these thick things over the shoulders. He's broad, and he's holding the weight of that bag. And his neck is quite, what I'd say, quite squat, like mine. Look like your fucking head's been just sellotaped to the top of your body. Him, however, Tyler Robinson, well, he looks like Stretch Armstrong that's been handed around an eight-year-old's birthday party and had a bad day. Do you know what I mean? He looked like his head's been grabbed and pulled. You know, like a scene from The Thing. I expect his head to carry on going and eventually fall off and turn into a spider. And his shoulders, well, they're like this. It looks like if you put a backpack on his shoulders, they'd fuck off south. Do you know what I mean? These two individuals here, in my opinion, are not one and the same. They're not the same person. This guy's filling his jeans. He looks like he's wearing someone else's jeans. Yes, they've got the same type of shoes on, and we've heard people talk about the shoes, which I find irrelevant. It's just that the actual build of the guy is completely different. Unless in the week leading up to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, this individual got on the gear and and roided out. And yeah, but these two individuals here, in my opinion, are just not the same. So there's that. And then we have this here, which is this here. Look. Salt Lake City, KUTV, 2 News investigates uncovered possible missing surveillance footage video. Just making shit up now, of Tyler Robinson turning himself in to the Washington County Sheriff's Office just days after allegedly shooting and killing Charlie Kirk. Our job was not to interview, our job was just to get him here, said Washington County Sheriff Nate Brooksby on September 17th. Within the hour, my friend drove Tyler and his parents to my office, where he was greeted by plainclothes detectives. 2 News filed a public records request with the Washington County Sheriff's Office for video showing Robinson entering the Washington County Jail holding area and video of Robinson in a holding room. Just give us a picture. Don't need to listen to anything. Don't need to hear anything that's pertinent to the investigation. Just a photograph. Just something that shows him coming in and being held. We do not have any records responsive to this proportion of the request, as Tyler Robinson did not go to or enter the jail area, wrote a records officer with the sheriff's office. Holding room video was denied as part of the investigation. A few weeks later, 2 News re-upped the request in a more generalised fashion, inquiring for surveillance video showing Tyler Robinson walking into Washington County Sheriff's Office. Our office does not have any applicable records responsive to this request, as the surveillance footage is no longer available after the 30-day retention period, wrote a records officer. When asked if the video was shared with any law enforcement or legal agency, the department responded, "It is my understanding it was never sent out to any agency." What in the actual fuck? 2 News took requests from Rudy Batista, a criminal defense attorney of 26 years in Utah, who works on capital cases, including a current case in Utah County involving the death penalty. For the state of Utah, we would certainly hope that this video is available, Batista said. If in fact it has been destroyed and not preserved, it's very concerning. And if it has, then it's very concerning that they're telling you they don't have it. If they no longer have it, I would have expected to say that this video had been provided to the Utah County law enforcement, but instead this letter reads, in my opinion, as trying to shut the door and not give you free access to the press. Batista said in the video evidence of Robinson turning himself in would be crucial for the defense work of mitigation. He also believes the case involving Tyler Robinson, who has been charged with crimes involving the shoot and death of Charlie Kirk, is not a death penalty case, which I'll touch on that in a second. He says, Mr. Kirk, by all accounts, was a great young man who was helping educate people, and we encourage that. And this is very tragic that he's lost his life. But it's not a death penalty case, Batista said. Batista looks at the alleged murder weapon and believes that since only one shot was fired and the weapon didn't allow for automatic gunfire, there is not an aggravating factor to warrant that aggravated murder charge. And the rifle was determined to be a Mauser Model 98 30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle. Clearly not what hit Charlie in the neck, hence his head still being attached to his body, but that's by and by. The rifle had a scope mounted on top of it. Investigators noted inscriptions that had been engraved on casings found with the rifle. The risk of hitting someone else really isn't there, Batista said. That's why I believe that an aggravating factor is really weak now. Why it was charged that way is clearly political. Prior to Robinson's arrest, many political figures started calling for the death penalty as a possible sentence, including President Donald Trump, on a national television platform, and a reminder from Governor Spencer Cox during a press conference. Instead of looking at it objectively, a prosecutor is to look at the evidence objectively and then charge the person with the most applicable crime. Here, they're saying it will be this crime. They're trying to make the facts fit a cause of action that is not applicable, Batista said. It certainly suggests abuse in our higher government. Now, let me just put something into context here. Now, I'm not completely au fait with US law, but I've been covering crimes in the US for the last sort of 3 years, and I've had an interest in crimes around the US since I was 16 years old, doing my final exams on capital punishment across the United States of America when I was 16. So, look, I've had an interest in it for a while, and what I will say, when it comes to aggravating factors, this guy could be wrong. Simply executing someone in public where children witness that could be classed as an aggravating factor. So it's very difficult to say that this isn't a death penalty crime when you can literally just say that because there was children there, that could be classed as aggravating. And there are other exceptions to that as well. But this is concerning. This entire situation is concerning. We saw a similar situation in the Idaho 4 case. As far as I'm aware, there has been absolutely no footage of Brian Kohberger in the Idaho 4 case, any images of him or video of him being interviewed. We've got interviews of every single other person. I'm sure that at some point Murphy the dog's interview will come out, but yet Brian Kohberger, nada, nothing. And then we've got Tyler Robinson, who, again, like we saw at the beginning, potato cam. I just don't think these two people are the same person. We'll just have one other brief look at that before we look at the court doc. They just don't look the same. The build is completely different. I know Jesse on Fire done a closer look at how the ears, the lobes on this individual, I believe, was detached and his were attached, or vice versa. So they don't look like the same person. They just don't. The build is completely different, and yeah. Look, could he pass if you looked at him through frosted glass? Yeah, about the same as I could pass as Brad Pitt looking through frosted glass. But let's have a look at this doc. They're just trying to hide everything. And it leads to the question is, who the fuck is Tyler Robinson? Is Tyler Robinson just somebody who they have employed to fill in this role? And I know that's tinfoil hat. Do you know what I mean? I get it. That's annoying me that my picture is like slightly off there, so we bring that in a bit. Things like that get on my nerves. So who is he? What is the crack here? Why are they just trying to hide everything? Apparently this was some sort of slam dunk. The guy shoots Charlie Kirk and then sends a letter, or he's left a letter for his cat, who's read it and then handed that in. And then he's... all of a sudden everything's fucking hidden. You can't even see the guy. You don't see him. You see him on a video. And we know that that's been doctored to make it look like he's, affirming things when he's not. If you didn't see that video, that was from a while ago, where they've doctored the footage, basically. But this doc here, look, the public right to access must give way to Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial. So this is the last doc that's in the docket, and there's 180 odd docs in the docket now. So and the majority of them are rarely around the trying to hide this situation from the public. They've even at one stage tried to say that Tyler Robinson should just say that he's not going to go into court at all. We'll do this entire process in his fucking absence. I shit you not. But this, look, the United States Supreme Court has firmly established that the press, general public, have a constitutional right to access to criminal trials under the First Amendment. In the Utah Supreme Court likewise has recognised the presumptive right under Article 1, Section 15 of Utah Constitution encompassing press access significant pretrial proceedings in a criminal case, and then it's referring to this. That right has never been absolute, however, so they're basically already starting, yeah, we understand that, but it's not absolute. Indeed, while open criminal proceedings give assurances of fairness to both the public and the accused, there are some limited circumstances in which the right of the accused to a fair trial might be undermined by publicity. And then it's got this Press Enterprise versus the Supreme Court. For example, the Utah Supreme Court has found that allowing blanket inspection of preliminary hearing exhibits must be preserved for a later trial if a defendant is bound over will hinder, not further, the interests of the criminal process. And then it says, as the court considered any request made by the media regarding court record classification and objections to reclassification or closure motions, it is critical that this court consider the realistic likelihood of prejudice to Mr. Robbins' right to a fair trial, which we're going to circle back round in a second. To preserve the defendant's right to a fair trial, trial courts have an affirmative constitutional duty to minimise the effects of prejudicial pre-trial publicity. Again, we'll circle round to that in a second, and then it just goes on to these. Trial courts must be especially vigilant to guard against any impairment of the defendant's right to a verdict based solely upon the evidence and the relevant law. In doing so, the United States Supreme Court has encouraged trial courts to take such steps by rule and regulation that will protect their processes from prejudicial outside interferences, which I'm going to call bullshit on this in a second. And it says, there is no precedent for granting a media entity broad intervener status in criminal proceedings beyond the Rule 4202-04, right to notice and closure hearing on specific motions to seal records or hearings. Proposed media interveners conflate their right to notice and opportunity to be heard under rule. And let's just get this straight. What is an intervener? An intervener is just somebody who is there as a referee, if you like. I'm trying to dumb this down as much as possible, just to make sure that all of the information is heard by everybody. So you could, in this kind of situation, you could argue that this needs an intervener. This does need somebody who is just going to report everything as it comes. Not going to hide anything. It's just going to make sure that all of the information people needs to hear and sees, because if the courts are trying to block the media from seeing stuff, you've got to ask why. Because, and I'm going to do a live and I'll go through the docs, but you get the gist of this document. This is again trying to hide proceedings, prevent the media from acquiring an intervener status, which is again to make sure that basically everybody gets to hear everything, steps in when if anything's going to be hidden, say, oh no, hold on a second, you need to see everything and hear everything. But yeah, it's a bizarre situation. This entire situation is a really, really weird one. You've got a trial, like I said earlier. You've got a trial that this guy is going to trial. We're going to get a preliminary hearing in the new year. He supposedly handed himself in, but they're trying to hide everything. And we know, because of the multiple cases that are out there, is that by stopping documents from being allowed into docket, not under seal, and allowing the media to see it, allowing the public to see it, then all that happens is people just fill in the gaps. Has people started or stopped talking about the Charlie Kirk case because there is limited information available? No. People are seeing the skeletal format that you've got and picking apart the bits that there are and understanding that as it is, it don't make sense. Tyler Robinson don't make sense. That picture don't make sense. They don't look like the same guy. We've got, apparently, sometimes he's limping, sometimes he's not. Does he have the gun down his trousers? Does he not? The images, his hair's not attached and shit like that. The Candace Owens saying about someone else being on the roof. This guy being caught on cameras, Philly Wang Wang's family's house, and apparently on the phone or talking to a female. Do you know what I mean? There's just so many oddities. A security team that seemingly couldn't understand that Charlie Kirk was a fucking sitting duck, and someone managed to shoot him apparently from 150 fucking yards away. But they want to blame Charlie Kirk and they want to blame the university because someone should have been on there. Well, that's your fucking job to make sure someone was on there. Send your own man up there and make sure it's done. Do you know what I mean? You had one job to keep Charlie Kirk alive and you fucking failed. But now they just want to hide everything. And I ask, who the fuck is Tyler Robinson? Why are they trying to hide every single thing and then hide behind the guys that, oh, we're going to just hide everything because if we keep everything wrapped up and away and just say, trust us, bro, then he will get a fairer trial. How is he going to get a fairer trial? All the information we have at the moment is that he did it and he confessed to doing it. So you know exactly what you're doing. You know that on the grander scheme of things, if people are watching mainstream media, then they believe that this is the guy who did it. Then there is no questions to be asked. He was caught. He was found. He was found in 33 hours or 38 or 39, however many. But the 33 hours push, they did it. Whoa, they're heroes. Bosh. Job done. Nothing to see here. Do you trust that? Do you really trust that? Should you trust it? Or do we need transparency? Should there be transparency? Because this ain't transparent. This is the absolute opposite of transparency. This is that paint, that black paint that doesn't reflect any light. Can't remember what it's called. BMW painted a car in it. I know that. Anyway, love you all, and I'll catch you a bit later on today. Mwah.